Hey, can you hear me? Aja, can you hear me?
Me?
The audience.
Oh, the audience.
They
I
could
can hear
not,
you.
nobody could hear me. I was completely just in the void. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. It's me, it's Laughingboy. I'm here with Klinkit. Hello.
Hello.
Oh, the thing about doing this once a month is that I feel like every time I have to dust the OBS cobwebs and something's always busted. So thank you for putting up with me, chat. This is gonna be a wild ride. Um, how are you though, Clinkett? How you doing?
I'm I'm doing pretty well. I was pretty tired today. I mean, I've been tired since Zeldathon ended. Um, but today I was really tired, and so I took a nap before this, and I'm feeling a little bit rejuvenated.
That sounds so good. I wish I
Yeah.
could have done the same.
Yeah, it was very much needed. It
Yeah,
wasn't long enough, but it was very much needed.
yeah. I see Fue Coco in the background, so
Yeah.
we're all set. I got my Charmander back here.
Aw.
You can't see him because Kirby's on top of him,
Oh,
but you can
dang
probably see my
Kirby.
chain chomp.
I
Um,
do see the change up.
yeah, that's a good boy. Look, hi everybody. Welcome everybody in chat. I know people are just kind of coming in slowly but surely. And in this time, this allows me to do a lot of like obviously if things are busted, I can fix them. If they're not, then we'll just kind of go with the way things are. Um, but we also have a Q&A session that I like to do at the start of the stream for the first like 30-ish minutes, and I just posted the link to the forms at the top. You can go there right now and ask questions, just like some of our viewers did before the stream started. And we have a couple of good ones here. So while everyone does that, I'm going to go ahead and start asking questions. So hold on.
Sure thing.
Get the live chat going. Let me make sure that this is working. All right. Everything's working. Cool. First off, I have a question from Hop and he asks, "How do you feel about the inclusion of community volunteers at Zeldathon? Are you looking to expand or decrease this number for future events?"
Yeah, so the community volunteer thing came about. Well, I've always had a desire to open Zeldathon up more and make it more accessible to people. Um, but it was really fast tracked when I looked at our attendance numbers for summer, and it was 35 people. And I was like, "Uh-oh. We're in trouble. We're gonna be exhausted." So I've kind of fast tracked the volunteering. I had planned on maybe doing fewer volunteers than we ended up actually accepting initially, but I expanded it quite a bit more. And to be honest, I think we probably could have used um, a small handful more, especially for some of the. I'd like to get to the point where people can have a day off.
Yeah,
That's what I'd like to get to that point. We aren't quite there yet.
I can agree to
Um,
that.
yeah, so we're but I enjoyed it a lot. When it comes to Zeldathon and our brand, we're pretty careful about who we allow to be part of our events. Because we want to make sure that it's gonna fit with our brand. And Zeldathon didn't always used to be this way. Initially, it was like, ah, you're my friend, come be on Zeldathon. And then at some point it was like, I've never met you before, but uh you're in the community, sure. Come be part of Zeldathon. And this is before my time. This is like, teenager MC and the few years after that. And usually things worked out. Sometimes they didn't, but eventually Zeldathon got very restrictive where it was like you had to have people like references vouching for you to get on. And you had to have met someone in person. And then during Voyage, we kind of changed it so that we could, or not Voyage, sorry, during COVID, during the side quest era, we kind of were letting people participate in our remote events without necessarily being well known and letting people join the team who had, shown virtually that they were good, good fits for us.
Right.
And then, when we went back in person, we shifted things again to allow people that we had worked with virtually who we were pretty confident would be good fits to come to the event.
Okay.
And so now this volunteer thing, it's really difficult to run these events, and having people behind the scenes who can help do that so that the team that's on camera, can really focus on doing their job and not being worn out. Because being on camera and, like, making content is really exhausting. It actually,
What?
believe it or not,
That I
believe it or not,
what?
it's
My
actually
god, what are you
exhausting.
talking about? I've never heard of that in my life.
It's so tiring. And it's like it's not real. It's not just you
It's
hanging out
not
on camera.
real. I like how you both, like, carried it to this high, and then immediately went back to this low. It's not even real anyway, so, like, what does it matter? We're fine. Do whatever you want.
No, but it's like it's not even like you're like it's not like you're just actually hanging out on a couch. When you're in
Yeah.
front of a camera, you're not fully relaxed ever.
No, you're
You're
not.
putting on a show. Doesn't mean that you're not being truthful or honest in what you're saying, but it's a different energy and it is draining, when you have the lights in front of you and the
Yeah.
cameras and you're like trying to make sure you're saying the right things or selectively not filtering what you're saying because it's gonna be funny.
Those weren't real portholes? No way!
And so it can be exhausting, and so also having to do all of the take behind the scenes shifts can start to show on camera when people are exhausted. Um, I'm
Yes.
sure people have seen how tired I seem. That's real, I'm not acting.
That wasn't content. I'm very
I'm just tired.
I
And
mean,
it's not.
I felt so bad too because, like, I was just stuck at work for the first, like, what, 4 days of the
Mhm.
marathon, so I was like, "Hey, sorry, I can only come, like, Friday and or s yeah, Friday and Saturday." Showed up Friday, I was mostly fine, and then showed up again Saturday, and I think at, like, 4:30 PM, it just, like, hit me, and I crashed real hard. I just remember
Oh.
walking around the place just, like, as a ghost, and I'm just kind of, like, looking over and just, "Does anybody need me? Okay, just gonna walk to another room." I think at one point, I was just like, "Where can I just be where I'm not in the way?" Um, but no, I can only imagine if that was me a day and a half later, like, how everyone must have been feeling on this is their, like, day 5,
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
So,
Yeah, yeah, it's exhausting, plus the beds sucked. For those that sedate on campus, we're probably feeling it even more than usual.
can we talk about the beds at Saturn?
Okay, take the worst, like, college dorm room you've ever had and make it worse.
'Cause, like, I saw a picture, I think it was Cass who posted the picture of, like, the toilet overflowing, I was like, "Yeah, that's
Oh.
fine. That's, like, con stuff." And then, when I started hearing about, like, everyone complaining about the beds, I'm kinda like, "Well, this makes sense because most of the kids that would be going here, they're, like, 20, they're pliable, but we're
Yeah,
all
we're all old now.
old." Our spines have, like, set in. They're no longer made of rubber and
Yeah,
dreams.
Saturn was like an S tier, venue
It
itself,
was.
like, it was great.
Yeah.
The accommodations we chose, not great. We're gonna have to work on that.
I legit remember the previous venue, and you just kind of walk in and the lobby's fine, but then, like, when you keep going, it just gets wet and just it like, by day 2, the whole place was just like a swamp. So that was, like, my least favorite thing about that previous venue,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that was just not there. I do really feel like the venue space, the studio space was so much better
Oh,
at
there was
at this.
daylight. There was lots of daylight, like, that was
That's true
incredible. You're like
too. That makes a difference.
It
that you
does,
can
you
see
walk
the
out and you're like,
outside.
"Wow,
Yeah.
so much sun."
Well, at least for most of the day, or most of the week rather.
Yeah,
Last 2 days were not as fun, but
true, true,
yeah, it's very
but,
wet. Um, yeah,
but yeah,
so
I don't know if I finished the question, but yeah,
do
it's
you
tiring.
I
Love having
think
the
you did.
volunteers.
Yeah,
Would love to continue to have them.
awesome. We have Brett GB's first question. I mean, that's just a question I'm gonna ask during the actual show, so I'll give you props for that when we get to that question, but I'm gonna skip it for now. Um, his other question, though, what are your thoughts on the Switch 2 so far? And you and I just talked about this right before we started the show.
So, yeah, I don't have a Switch 2. Um, I probably will have to purchase one soon as the executive producer of Zeldathon, but I don't have one yet. I did use one at, uh, at Zeldathon. Um, I wasn't expecting to, but I did play Echoes of Wisdom on
Mhm.
the Switch 2 and I actually had never played it outside of handheld mode. So I played it on the TV with the Switch 2 Pro controller. And I'll be honest, I it looked really pretty on the TV, but since I never actually played it on the TV ever, I can't tell you how much better it
It's pretty dang good, probably.
Um, but, the Switch 2, we were talking about this earlier, it has, like, the grip G1 or GL and GR, like,
Yeah.
the grip buttons, and those were so weird. I don't know what you'd use them for, but
I
they exist. Um,
yeah, they sure do.
you press them a lot, and, it's pretty. Mario Kart looks like fun. I wish I could play Mario Kart with all my friends right now, but I can't. But I'm sure in a couple weeks, no one will be doing it anymore. Uh,
Really? Yeah, yeah, Mario Kart, the game that whose previous, brethren lasted an entire almost 11 years. That game went took me through my 20s and beyond.
yeah, it's kind of weird to think about how long Mario Kart 8 lasted.
I think it really like, everyone was very much just kinda like, "Oh, wait, we have been playing this game for, like, 10 years."
Yeah.
Although I feel like there was a lull period at least, but, like, I didn't think that many people were playing it until the booster courses came out, but,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. But I'm also excited about Donkey Kong, but I don't I'm not excited enough to buy a Switch 2 for it.
I can see that. I mean, right now, like, the biggest 2 games right now are, like, I wanna play Mario Kart or I wanna play, like, Donkey Kong Bonanza. But then Twitch would tell me that I really should play Cyberpunk on the Switch too, because it's been, like, the one commercial about the Switch 2 that I have seen since the Switch 2 came out.
Really?
It look, the algorithm, it tells me that Cyberpunk is the game. Yeah, the one game I still need to play because I need to download the DLC for it now is, Scarlet and Violet. I heard that game runs as
Oh, yeah.
God intended.
I would love to play Scarlet and Violet on the Switch too.
Yeah, and then obviously we're, new Hyrule Warriors. I almost said Age of Calamity. Look, I played over so many hours of Age of Calamity. I don't know if I'm emotionally ready for another Age of anything, but we'll see what
Yeah,
happens.
yeah, get ready for the next, Zeldathon Jail based on Age of Imprisonment. Just kidding.
As long as there's free cable. It can't be any worse. The beds are probably better or just as good,
True.
and you get your own toilet in the room. You can make wine out of it. Cactus is saying leaked Zeldathon title. Yeah. Whoops. You only get these kind of things here on this stream.
Yeah, I've leaked it, Zeldathon Jail coming this week too.
It's just like the Link shrug emoji just in front of like behind bars. Just going to jail, I guess. Okay, we have a speaking of Cactus, we do have a question from them. Out of all the charity events you've done, what is your favorite slash particularly memorable bit you've seen or been part of?
Oh gosh. I've done so many bits. Um,
That's a
wow,
loaded question.
that is a loaded question. Um,
I'm not particularly good at, like, your favorites, I'll admit, so I'm right there with you.
favorite bits. Um, I can let's see. If we go back to, like, what I think some of my favorite ones maybe I'll give some of my top ones.
That'll
Um,
work.
I really loved producing, and most of my favorite ones, were ones that I thought of while I was in the shower. That's how I know an idea is good. Um, so I loved, the Minish Resizer from, I think that was Echoes.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
It
or
was either
Jiggy.
last year or 2 years ago.
Yeah, it was 2 years
It's
ago.
pretty good.
I was pretty proud of that one. That one came to me in the shower. And, actually, before that, I guess it was kind of my first bit was at Zeldathon Daybreak, we at 72 hours, we did a rewind and, like, reset the stream. Like, we got the same people in the same outfits sitting on the couch, like, because that was the
Oh.
Majora's Mask marathon. And we had and we started it, but it actually we made it look some people thought it was just going back and playing the original recording, but it wasn't. We actually had everyone back on the couch in their original positions, wearing the clothes they wore on the first day.
That requires planning and
Oh, yeah.
hopefully a washing machine.
That one was really fun. Yeah, and I said Minish Resizer, Triforced Heroes was really good, which was also right after Minish Resizer.
Yes, it was.
Running around and forcing people to play games. I really liked that one. Uh, Zelda Clue was fun. Blood on the Clock Tower was a lot of fun and a lot of work. Um, and then I am also pretty proud from this event of Michael, Michael, and Michael.
I see, I didn't see that, but I kept hearing about it.
So
What was
I
Michael,
have a
Michael, and
secret.
Michael?
I have a secret.
Oh,
You were
yeah?
supposed so originally I cast you as the "and" in Michael, Michael, and Michael. I was like, "Andrew."
Oops.
But
Was
then you were
that
like,
right
"Oh, I
before I
can't."
was like, "Hey, I gotta go."
Yeah. No, that was earlier in the week because this was on a
Okay,
Thursday. So
okay.
I was like, "When are you gonna be here?"
Got it.
And, I needed an Andrew to be the "and" in Michael, Michael, and Michael.
Damn it. Well, now we know for next
And
time.
so I literally was like, "Do we have any other Andrews here?" And we did have another Andrew, and it
S
worked out great.
Okay.
The other Andrew was played a very great role, but but in an alternate universe, you were the Andrew.
That's a good podcast too. When you really think about it, just a little behind the scenes in the room for Michael, Michael, and Michael, I was there for. It was such a good segment. Oh, okay. That's from,
It was just
Julia.
yeah, I had been wanting to do that event for a couple events, or wanted to do that segment for a couple events of getting Ganon, Basunify, and Jiggy on a couch together, playing Triforce Heroes. And Jiggy said that was the one idea he would willingly play Triforce Heroes for.
Okay. Yeah, because
He was
I remember
excited for
that.
it. Yeah, but we didn't tell Ganon about it. Basunify knew.
So he just, like, walks in the room and it was just, like,
He's like,
at
"It's a
what point
podcast? What?"
it's a pod at what point did Ganon realize the bit?
He kind of started to realize it because he was a producer right before then, because like, he
Okay.
would hear little snippets of what was going on. He's like, "What podcast?" Okay. But Ganon's a good actor.
Yeah.
There's Ganon in chat.
Michael rules. Mike, Mike, and Mikey is also pretty good. It may get lost on Gen Zers, but I understood it, Uber. I get it.
We had so many incentives planned that we didn't even need, that we didn't like, they were like, started planning them and we didn't use any of them. We just let them cook.
Hey, there you go. That just means you have more for next time.
Yeah.
Speaking of Ganon 11, he asked, "What were you nervous about before the event, and how do you feel now post-event about those worries?"
Oh, I had a lot of concerns about the event.
Yeah,
I think my biggest concern was, fundraising. And because it's difficult to know what the economy is gonna be like.
yeah,
Um, and or not difficult it's difficult to know how the economy is going to affect people
right,
and their ability to give. And the economy hasn't been great and has been very uncertain lately. And so I felt a lot of pressure, even though I've been significantly involved in the previous events as a director of Zeldathon, since COVID. I still, even though, and I took I was the major person, kind of the major leader for
mhm,
1986, even though I wasn't technically running the whole thing. Um, I still felt as though the result of fundraising for this event was going to be the kind of the baseline of how I'm judged, right?
mhm, right,
I kind of felt a lot of pressure for that.
yeah,
And I really wanted to be successful, so that, you know, charities and businesses would still want to work with us and support the event moving forward.
right,
Because that, like for me, it's like I am happy raising any kind of amount of money, right? Any money for charity is great, but the challenge is, I mean, these events cost money to put on, and charities want to see a certain return on investment. So ensuring that we're raising enough that a charity will continue to want to invest in the event, or companies will see value in sponsoring or providing other forms of support for the event. I think that was what I felt the most pressure for,
right.
and what I was most scared about. Um, I was very grateful that PC Part Picker wanted to match so many
Yeah,
donations.
what the heck?
That was that was a big weight off my
Those PC
shoulders.
parts are selling like crazy, that those kinda donations.
Yeah, we love PC Part Picker. That was a huge weight off my shoulders.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine. Because I mean,
Yeah.
like, it's rough, right? When you start talking about a charity event doing well, um, it is almost entirely reliant on, well, how much money did you make?
Yeah.
And it sucks because for a charity event, like, that's not really the point. You kinda have the you have to maintain this mindset of, well, we are raising money, so any kind of money is good, right? But also, that your future, especially if you're trying to make this like a future event, or especially I feel like, and we'll definitely get into this, so I don't want to talk too much about it, but in your case, having taken over this event, it reflects on you, I think, more than people realize.
Mhm.
And so for the event to do well, it's kind of like, I think to anybody that's watching the event, it's kind of like, well, if they don't do this much money, or if they only do this much money, that's fine. I still love the event. But when it comes to like a lot of the behind the scenes, and especially like, unfortunately, you can't help it. You can't stop this feeling of how it becomes like a reflection of yourself. This event doing well means that you did well.
Yeah.
Um, I think I can definitely understand that. I've never been in that kind of pressure, but I can at least try to understand it a little bit from those perspectives.
Yeah.
And that's also why I wanted to bring you on here, because even though the idea was to do this before Zeldathon and just kind of be like, let's talk about Zelda, I almost feel like this is kind of good in a way that we can just kind of talk about, Zeldathon's over.
Yeah. I'm not a bundle of anxiety anymore.
Yeah. Um, we know what happened.
Mhm.
We know how well or how poor, some this event did. And maybe that's a way for us to kind of talk about like, and enlighten some people in terms of like what really goes into an event like this. So, We'll talk more about that. I have a couple more questions,
Mhm.
and I hope I get the name right. We have from Relius. He asks, "Is there gonna be a Chef of Death or cooking bit at Zeldathon again?"
I don't know about Chef of Death. Uh, I haven't been that character in a while. That was my wrestling name back when we did ZCW wrestling.
Okay, I legit thought this was a cooking bit.
Well, because I started out as a cooking streamer before I joined Zeldathon.
Ah,
And so when I came to Zelda and, like, Jackson Parodi used to do the ZCW Champions, which was this, semi-scripted wrestling with the biggest quotations I can possibly give event inside the ball pit we used to have. Um, that's the best description I got, and we'd all create characters, and I created a character that was a chef. I didn't have a name, and Jackson was like, "The Chef of Death," and I was like, "Alright."
pretty
And
good.
so I became the Chef of Death, and I did it for 2 events, the Chef of Death, um, and, like, gave Jackson a concussion in at least one of them. He really
He's
wanted me to throw him and not hold back.
he's
Uh
fine, question mark.
But, yeah, the I don't know if that will come back because ZCW is not something I think many of us have the energy for
Oh, you mean we can have permanent damage?
anymore. But, as for a cooking segment, that would require a kitchen. And,
Understood.
I did do a cooking segment at Side Quest, Winter Masquerade, because we had a kitchen there, and, if we had a kitchen, I would absolutely do a cooking segment, but actually, we wanted for Waffle Wednesday, I was supposed to get a waffle maker, and we were gonna make waffles this last event, but I, forgot to get a waffle maker, so we microwaved Eggo waffles.
Microwaving waffles is a cooking segment. That's
Yep.
true. It's always a possibility. I mean, I think even ZUthon during the start of the pandemic, I think we may have, like, taken that because I know we had, like, a Legends cookbook partnership.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, so that Zelda universe could have its own water bottle. We did a cooking segment, and people liked it. So there's definitely something to the cooking segment.
Oh, yeah, I love doing cooking segments. I don't like being a cooking streamer anymore because it's messy and expensive, and your kitchen's always a studio, which is not that much fun when you actually need to use your kitchen.
Well, I I can't say one way or the other. I have no experience. But if it ever happens again, I look forward to it.
I've done a couple cooking segment for charity now and then. I'll bring out the old gear and do one, but I don't do it regular. I got so burnt out on cooking segment or on, cooking streaming.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I have enough just dealing with this behind me.
Yeah.
And
Imagine
then
you wanna go make dinner and, like, all the recording equipment's everywhere, and you're like, "Ugh."
guess I'll just stream dinner.
Yeah.
Why not? We have one more from Pink Penguin who asks, if you were drafted into the circus, what job would you take?
Ooh.
These are the kind of questions that I hope to see more often in the Q&A segments, by the way.
Drafted into the circus. Um, I feel like do I have to be good at it? Like, actually skilled in
This
it?
is yours. This can be wholly made up.
I feel like I would be, like, a fire breather or something.
That would actually be pretty cool.
I think that would be me.
I need to understand how people do sword swallowing.
Yeah, I don't think my gag reflex could handle sword swallowing, but
Gotta work
but
your
I think I
way.
could breathe fire.
Yeah. I sounds way more doable. All right. Thank you guys so much for the questions. We're at about 30 minutes in, so I'm gonna go ahead. Here's what's gonna happen. We're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna see some ads. I wish I could still do the thing. I can't seem to do it anymore where I used to be able to gift memberships to people who made it in here early. Can't seem to do that anymore. I don't even think I can access gifting. Wait, hold on. Yeah, no, I can't even do that. Can anybody gift? Nah, I'm not gonna ask anybody to do that. Anyway, we're gonna play some ads. It's just how it is. We're gonna do a little ad break. We're gonna get ourselves ready for the podcast episode, and then we are going to actually start the podcast proper. So just hang in there with us for a little bit. We're gonna go ahead and get ready. You know, all the Spotify people aren't even gonna hear what I'm saying, and it's why am I even thinking so much about this? Let's take a break. Let's
Yeah.
do that. Yeah. We'll be right back, right after this message that I have no idea what it'll be. I hope it's good. It worked. It worked. The button I pressed
Yay.
worked. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another fantastic episode 4, our very first episode 4 of Good Luck, Have Fun. It's where we've taken the that was very loud. That will be fixed next time. That's on me. The intro is I try to reduce it. I need to reduce it more apparently. So we'll fix that. Sorry if I woke anybody up or jump scared anybody. Um but yes, this is the podcast where I've taken the best parts of Dialogue Box and Let's Talk, and I've merged them together to create a more fun, casual, and informative conversation. You know, about our lives with content creators and how we celebrate our love of video games through the joyless experience of creating content. I mean, joyful. Sorry, it's just there's a typo there. Joining me this month, we have the owner of Overproduced. She's also the Zeldathon EP. You can also find her working with GDQ and the Frame Fatales group, especially. We have Klinkit here. Hi, hello,
Hi.
hi.
Hello.
How you
Excited to
doing?
be here. I'm doing well. Had my
Yeah,
nap, my post-work nap, and now I'm feeling good. The caffeine's hitting.
I bought a coffee at like 3 p.m. Most people would say that that's crazy. I
Mm,
agree, but I need it.
yeah, and I got tomorrow off of work, so it's okay.
I technically do. My project manager was like, "So, if you wanna work," and I was like, "Nah,
Yeah, no.
I know I took a day off last week, but, what's another?"
Right.
So, yeah, so I brought you in here because, well, originally, it was supposed to be because Zeldathon was, like, gonna be a week away. We are now, a week removed from the beginning of Zeldathon that took place last week. During the days of why won't my calendar appear? What was it? June 8th or was it June 9th?
I think
Monday
we
or
started on June 9th, 6th, 7th. Yeah, June 9th.
yeah. So we got June 9th through the 14th. I
Yeah, we
got that right.
technically ended on the 15th, but barely.
Yeah, that's true. I do recall that, and I was my wife texted me at the time and was like, "So are you gonna stay for the finale?" And I was like, "I don't know." And then I saw on the calendar or, on the schedule that was supposed to start at like midnight or something. I was like, "Yeah, I might stick around for a little bit." And then at some point I was like, "If I don't leave now, I'm not gonna get home until it's way early in the
Yeah.
morning and
Yeah.
I'm not going to be loving life." But yeah, I had a great time. Did you have a great time?
I had a time. It's, I was very anxious throughout the entire event. You know,
Yeah.
it's the first one under me completely, right?
Yeah.
And I was very nervous about it going well. So I had a good time, I will say. But I did not have a relaxed time.
Yeah, it's like hosting a party, but, like, up to 11.
Yeah. And I remember when people started telling me, like, this was their favorite marathon and, like, the vibes were great, and I was like, "Really? The vibes are good?" 'Cause I was so, like, removed. I felt like I was so mentally removed from, like, everything going on because I had all this other stuff I was trying to handle and, like, manage and worry about that
Yeah.
I didn't even know. And so, like, a couple of days in when people were like, "This is great," I was like, "I'm so glad."
Who are you again?
I was like, "I'm so glad it's great." I can't tell, but I'm so glad it's great.
I mean, it really was different. It's hard to say because like you don't want to talk too much about like too many behind the scenes stuff, but I was there for most, if not all, of Zeldathon the 1986.
Mhm,
Um, and I feel like it was just it felt like there was a lot of tension. Like everyone
mhm.
was kind of like holding their breath the entire time. And then all of a sudden this time it was just so different. And I just don't know what the difference was. Maybe it was just time, maybe it was just like settling into something new. Maybe it was the beds in the dorm rooms. But like I just it was so different. Like the vibes were just very much more relaxed in my opinion.
Yeah, I going back to 1986, um, well, so Dimensions had been a rough one for us, the one right before 1986, because that was
Right.
the one where there was, a lot of COVID outbreaks and stuff, and so that one was a really challenging ending, both physically by people having to leave, but also, like, emotionally, for a lot of people involved, and
Yeah.
so going into 1986, there was definitely a whole different kind of anxiety and tension about trying to make things better,
Right.
and, uh, during 1986, I already knew, that MC was gonna be stepping down, and, not long before it was settled not long before 1986, but I did know, um, and, I think others didn't know, but I think in hindsight, when you look back on it, you can kind of see, that that was on the horizon, and, yeah, 1986 was definitely a challenging one to try and, just for a whole bunch of reasons. It was exhausting in its own way, for me especially.
Right.
And this one, I think we made some I was able to delegate a lot more, um, to the staff, uh, to for them to handle a lot of things, and because I had to figure out how to run a business.
Yeah.
The things you don't realize. And and so while I was worried about a lot of things I had never thought about before throughout this event, so that's probably why I couldn't really quite feel all the vibes because I was trying to figure out contracts and all this other stuff.
Right.
Um, but I think allowing a lot of our staff to take leadership and ownership over things and like leaving it to them probably made things a lot more relaxed and allowed the vibes to be good. Because if it was only me controlling everything, the vibes would not be good.
Well, I mean, was that something you just couldn't do before? Like a lot of the delegation? Was there just something different this time around? Was it just like a realization like if I don't do this, then, the vibes will not be immaculate?
I think coming into the position of being the executive producer and owning the event, I really wanted to build trust. So I really from the beginning was very just kind of committed to being very transparent with the staff, because I wanted them to trust me and what I was doing with the event and to be on board with it, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted us to start and build from a level of trust, because they hadn't, they're having to shift their trust, from MC to a new I mean, I was leadership before, but I wasn't the owner, right?
Right. No, it's
And
different.
so
It's
yeah, it's
different.
different. So I really I did things at us instead of I decided not to to bring on additional directors, so to speak. I changed the structure and made myself executive producer, and really wanted to shift toward we're putting on a show. We're not like an organization, and cutting some of those bureaucracy levels, and then just trying to do things at that lower staff level rather than like the director level, and really working with directly with the staff
Right.
to on all our decisions, was kind of the route I went, and I think it paid off a lot. I think we were able to build a lot of trust as a team, and I think that helped a lot.
Right. Yeah, it seems like some of the other people in chat are kind of agreeing that the vibes were just good. I was only there for like the last 2 days, but I just admittedly, like, just for a little bit of context, like, I was a guest at Zeldathon 1986. I think this time I was, like, what, volunteer?
That you're
Cast?
cast?
I was
Yeah, we're still
cast.
figuring we got rid of the term guest because I was like,
I
I
think
don't know,
that
I just didn't
changes
like the term.
things. I think that changes things because I think when I showed up, there definitely felt like, "Okay, I'm not part of, like, the group, I'm not part of the thing." This time I felt like it was very different. Like, okay, I'm a guest in the sense, but like I am more part of the team to some degree. I think that does really change how everyone kind of sees each other, how everyone not like treats each other. I don't think anybody treated anybody poorly that I was aware of, but I think that it just really changes how everyone wants to like work with each other and how everyone it just seemed much more like even though it was high tension, everyone's trying to run a show, everyone's trying to make sure everything's working correctly. Um, that for the most part, everyone was kind of on board. No pun intended for Voyage.
Boat jokes.
I got a million of them. Um, so for anybody that's kind of walking into the room and they're not aware of what Zeldathon is, can you kind of talk about what is Zeldathon? What are they doing?
Yeah, Zeldathon is a 6-ish day marathon. We go 24/7 where we play through the Legend of Zelda games, uh, play through loosely. Sometimes we don't finish them. But we like to play lots of Zelda games nonstop, and we're raising money for great causes. While we do it, we don't just play the games. We do one of our specialties is like music. We love doing Zelda music and non-Zelda music, skits, game shows. We have prizes. People donate. And we're on Twitch, so and we have our Twitch chat up, so people can directly interact with us throughout the event. And we're just a bunch of goobers on a couch having fun, raising money for charity. And that's what Zeldathon is now. I think 15 and a half. I think this winter will be our 16th year. Now, I've only been part of it for almost 7. But,
A whole half life.
yeah,
Um,
I'm almost at the half-life. I it's weird now because I'm starting to get to be one of the older ones, so to speak, the ones who have been around longer, but I've always felt like the baby, so it's a transition period for me.
so yeah, only 7. Yeah. I mean, hey, that is half of the whole thing. But what was your so let's talk about that a little bit. Like what was your history with Zeldathon? You started 7 years ago. How did that come about?
This is a really great story. So, should I use names?
I mean, may I don't
Uh,
know
one
how.
one one team member
Yeah.
at the time, at MagFest, drunkenly invited my husband Basunify to Zeldathon.
Okay.
And, uh, Basunify followed up. Basunify reached out after MagFest and was like, "Hey, so about that Zeldathon invite," and that team member was like, "Oh, I don't remember this at all. I don't remember who this person even is, but I'll just vouch for them because that was back when we had the vouch system to go to
The
Zeldathon." So they just submitted Basunify and claimed to vouch for them. They were like, "It's probably fine."
it's Look, if I was able to say that when I was drunk, then it must have been real.
And then so Basudify got invited to Zeldathon Champions, which was summer 2018, and Basudify was too scared to ask if his wife Klinkit could go with him,
Okay.
'cause he didn't know anyone.
That's
So he
fair.
didn't ask, and he went to Zeldathon Champions by himself and had his own hotel room because he was too shy to ask for roommates or anything. And, but then it just so happened that MC lives pretty close to us. So in the off season after Champions, we had gone out to dinner with MC and I met MC and MC and I hit it off real fast. We became real good friends real fast. And so MC was like, I gotta get you. Actually, what happened is we were watching a Jackson Parodi stream
Oh,
at MC's house after getting Korean barbecue. And I was like giving Jackson a rough time and like said, kind of
well, why don't you do this if you think you're so damn smart?
I was being a little sassy, and MC was like, "I love how sassy you're being with Jackson. You gotta come to Zeldathon." I came to
Okay, that's a good vouch. It's a pretty good vouch.
Zeldathon. And, yeah, that was the start of my time at Zeldathon. And so I went to Response, Heals, and then right before Forces, I remember because I was in MC's kitchen. MC was like, "So, you wanna be a director of Zeldathon?" And I had only been part of Zeldathon for, just about a year at that point. And I was like, "I let me think about it? That's a little fast." Um, but ultimately, I decided to accept, and they formally made me a director shortly after Forces. And I was gonna do the marathon called Parallel Worlds, which was gonna be a non-Zelda marathon, and then COVID happened, and it never
Right.
happened and will probably never happen.
I strangely think I remember the name at that time.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, because I started with Zelda Universe around 2015. I think it was actually, yeah, I think it was 2019 was when I finally actually met MC because he came out to, I think, a ZU panel of some kind, and so we were just that was, like, the first real conversation I had with him, and I do remember a lot of things that didn't, you know, wind up happening. Parallel Worlds is one of, although, to be fair, I guess, like, I thought it had happened, but that was just me going like, "Oh, yeah, Parallel Worlds, whatever. It's a thing."
Yeah, they had a marathon called Anything Other Than Zeldathon, and so it was kind of in that spirit that it was supposed to be. We had a full, like, game list out, we were ready, and then COVID hit, and we created Side Quest, our remote events, and, yeah, actually, since then, a lot of the segments that were originally slated for Parallel Worlds have made it into side quests,
Oh,
over
really?
time. Yeah, a lot of them have appeared in side quests.
Do
Actually, I
you
should get that I should find that list sometime,
I
but,
was gonna say.
yeah, the Hat in Time segment that Flying did last side quest was a Parallel Worlds segment. Um, Trying to think what other ones we had. That one I know there's some other ones, but they're not coming to mind. That one in particular is coming to mind though, that we definitely did.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
So, did you have so, like, MC comes up to you and says, "Do you wanna be the director of Zeldathon?" Did he see something in you? Did you have some kind of background in production? What about your experiences, either during or before Zeldathon helped inform, like, your abilities to take on this role?
I'll be honest, I think a lot of it was, my my work ethic, which also probably ties to the fact that I'm in the Marine Corps.
Right. That could, yeah. There might be a
'Cause,
connection there.
'Cause I would get to Zeldathon and I would load the truck. I think it was my first event. I took charge of loading the truck after the event, and, was ordering and telling people what to do and, like, what to grab and give to me. And then, I built sets a lot during the event, and I would jump in and do anything, and so, like, they wanted to bring on a 5th director because they wanted to have an odd number. for voting purposes, I guess.
Oh, no, actually, that makes sense. Every time somebody says something like that, I think of that bit from Hercules where it's like, "Oh, we already have 5 people, and we wanna keep it an even number."
Yeah, so they wanted a 5th person for voting purposes, and, from what I remember, from what I've heard, they basically all just thought I was a good fit for it. And then I became a director, and then one of the other directors stepped down within a couple months, and then we were 4 for again.
You try, and you try, and you try.
And then we never added another director. We didn't really want to during the COVID times,
That's fair.
and then now we're at where we're at.
Right, right. Do you have any what were your initial thoughts going into that position? And, like, did you were you going into that position like, "Oh, I can do this," or was it just kind of like, "Mm,
I was really I was a little apprehensive at first, because I was so new, and I didn't feel like I had a lot of friends at the event yet, and so I was a little nervous about taking on a leadership position when I didn't feel like I had, a lot of people behind or beside, supporting me. Not that people weren't supporting me, but I didn't have, like, a lot of those connections because a lot of my first couple events, I remember feeling kind of lonely because I wouldn't get invited out to go eat very often, or
mhm,
people wouldn't wanna hang out with me. Not that they wouldn't wanna hang out, they didn't invite me to hang out necessarily, because at Zeldathon used to be a little bit more cliquey than it is now, these days.
right."
And, they were high schoolers at one point. You know how it goes.
Yeah.
Um, but,
Well, I
yeah.
do think it's very protective in a way,
Mhm.
like, when I initially thought about it, 'cause, I'll say during that time that I met MC, I was just like, "Hey, if you ever want anybody to I've done charity events before if you ever need," and he just kinda was like, maybe," and I was like, "Okay, just say no." But, when I started understanding it a bit more, I understood very well why that possibly was, and I think, especially coming in, that's changed drastically, but, at first, I can see why it was a very you could say clicky, and I can kind of understand that, but I could also see it as like this protection of the group that has stayed there for a while. But I
Yeah,
also see how it can like negatively impact people who are already in that group. So
yeah.
yeah, it's
But yeah,
understandable.
yeah, and I mean, it wasn't like, people didn't like me or whatever. I just didn't feel like I had a lot of friendships made yet,
Right.
close friendships or anything, so I was a little scared about moving to a leadership position because I knew that meant I was probably not gonna make a lot more friends. And
This is also
that
fair.
yeah, so that was my biggest, concern was I was like, "Well, now I'm definitely not gonna be making friends."
this this is a
And
barrier.
and it's true. Honestly, like, especially since I came in and we went straight to COVID, it was incredibly hard for me to connect with people,
Yeah.
and for most until we were back in person because I like periods. I like writing and ending my sentences with periods, and I don't naturally like to use emojis, and I sounded really awful sometimes and blunt in text. And when you're only doing online communication, people start to take you a certain way. And so I did not make friends my first couple years as a director very well. I think it was once we got back in person and people could see that even though I like periods, I am still a fun person. And the way I write something is not necessarily the real tone I'm going for.
Chad, I just have to inform you, when she says that, she means the grammatical thing at the end of your
Oh yeah, no,
sentences.
I hate other periods.
Yeah. I just need everyone to be aware that I look, I don't know you very well. That could be very true, but I just want to, I needed to clarify for myself.
But yeah, I can come across harsh, very harsh in text. I'm blunt. I'm also
Yeah.
blunt in real life, especially in a production environment, and that's just how production environments are.
Yep.
But I think people have started to realize that about me, and I do. I I would say as of, like, the last couple years, I feel like and especially the last year, especially this last year, I really do feel like, I've been able to have like, really build real relationships with the staff and people involved with Zeldathon, which has been great.
Yeah, and obviously stuff like that takes time. And there is an element to it, like you said, the when everyone started coming back in person, can like see the rest of it. Like text obviously can be problematic sometimes if
Mhm.
you don't like put in an LOL at the end of a sentence every now and then.
I do it a lot. I've learned. I've learned.
Uh-huh. There have been articles written about this, about Gen Xers have to communicate better because we're all text based now. So I get it. But yeah, it's tough. And I think that probably do you think that that made it more or less difficult by the time you started into this new EP role?
Um, I think I think s I think the after Dimensions, I worked really, really hard to start working on those relationships with people,
Mhm.
and to talk with people more, because Dimensions with the whole COVID stuff, I felt like there was a lack of trust following that.
Mhm.
So I started working really hard on, going directly to people and talking to them and asking about, their concerns and how they were feeling, and then trying to build those relationships. And I think for 1986, there was definitely a big shift for 1986 in the trust, in me. Even though it was still a very tense and stressful event, I think people had grown to trust me a lot more.
Right.
And then building to this event, so I think I'll say I was very scared when I took over that everyone was gonna leave, um,
Mhm.
or at least a lot of people were gonna leave, but I started when most people, didn't leave, a lot of people who I was
Yeah.
like, a lot of people I thought would maybe leave didn't, and support and, like, were fully supportive of me taking over the event, and that was really humbling, um and really kind of showed me that maybe I don't know people as well as I'm writing people off, that I shouldn't be, that maybe they're like me and they have trouble sometimes showing, like, how they feel about things,
Mhm.
and I shouldn't necessarily judge someone based on how I perceive them,
Yeah.
um, and so, yeah, it's been a year and a bit of trying to build trust and getting people, and letting people feel heard, I think has been really important, and I still have a long way to go, but, I think I've gotten a lot better at it.
Yeah. I think on top of that, when it comes to how, all of a sudden you're in this EP position, I think basically like the ownership of Zeldathon from last year has kind of shifted hands in a way. And I guess it's now owned by Overproduced. It's no
Yeah.
longer a Kinstone owned property. Can you talk a little bit about your experiences of creating that small business, taking that over, and we can maybe talk later about lessons learned, but what was that process like for you to realize, oh, I need to like open up a small business and like own this, and can you talk about why that's necessary for something like this?
Yeah, I had always had this dream of starting a production company, and doing my own events, but it wasn't necessarily a dream I was ready to just jumpstart, right?
Yeah.
But when MC was like, "I'm either I mean, it was basically, "You take over Zeldathon or it ends." It wasn't, like, high pressure like that. It
Yeah.
was more
Okay.
like, "I trust you to take this event. Um, would you like to take it?" Was kind of more how it went. Um, I at first at first I was if you had asked me 2 months prior to that, I probably would have said no. I was really worn out and didn't think it was something I wanted to do, but as the trust with the team had been building, through 1986, my mindset shifted a lot. Um, and, so I said yes, but then I was like, "Oh, there's a lot that goes along with saying yes to this." So I was
Hmm.
like, "Alright, Google, how do I start an LLC?" And so I had to start an LLC. I had to come up with a name for my company, which eventually went with Overproduced, which I am very happy with that name. Originally, it was gonna be like Overproduced Productions, which is too long, and then I
A little overproduced.
a little overproduced. And so I settled on Overproduced and, started the company and still, like, not even sure, like, I remember going through the form and, like, "Am I doing this right?" I still don't necessarily know if I did it right, but, the IRS hasn't come for me. Uh,
That's always a
and
good sign, yeah.
and,
Good
I
first
had
step.
to open a business bank account, and I was like, "Okay, well, I guess I'll apply for this," and so I applied for my business bank account, um, but, you have to have if I had a registered agent, but I accidentally sent all my banking stuff to the registered agent, which meant extra fees, because 'cause they're not
Mhm.
supposed to go to the registered agent.
Ah,
And so I had to
is
go
that
back,
something you learned
change.
at the time, or
Yeah, something I learned the hard way. "Oh, here's some fees. I guess I did that wrong." And then, MC worked with his lawyer to do the transfer of Zeldathon to me. But then, uh, my friendly lawyer was like, "You can't." They were like, originally, we just did a transfer for no money, and but then I was advised that if you don't have a monetary exchange, it doesn't really have legal standing in court. So we had to go back and do an amendment where MC sold me Zeldathon for $1.
Ooh.
So we signed it, and I PayPal'd MC $1.
Did you just technically evaluate the event? "Come
Nope,
to
I get
Zeldathon, it's worth a whole dollar."
no, I still get taxed based on what everything was worth, all the gear that's worth, but
Well, so why did we need an LLC? What are the requirements for Zeldathon itself to run that would then go like, "Oh, I have to do this."
So, for me, I actually looked into it because I was like, I had asked MC in the past, "Why an LLC? Why not, like, a nonprofit?" Or, like,
Right.
"Do I even need a business?" And, nonprofits come with nonprofits are challenging. You gotta have your board and your laws, and you don't have a lot of control over things, and not only that, the process of a a nonprofit giving a grant, essentially, a donation or whatever, to another nonprofit is actually pretty complex.
Mhm.
You have to make it as, like, a grant, I think is how you have to do it. I don't remember exactly, but fundraising for different nonprofits as a nonprofit is not great. So
That's a good point.
yeah. Yeah. So, LLC became because it's limited liability, right? So I can separate, if something happens, I can separate some of the liability for things happening from myself. It also and I can, protect myself too. I got a tax ID for the business, EIN, and, so I can do my contracts and can get paid through that. It's not just necessarily my own private funds and
Right.
savings,
It's an
though much.
actual earning.
Yeah, yeah. So it's more just for, separating my private self. I mean, ultimately, it is still me.
Yeah.
Uh, the LLC I'm a sole proprietor, so it is still me, but, as I say, limited liability.
Yeah. Just a little bit as a treat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So moving on from that, what what would you say was well, maybe other than setting up the LLC, what was maybe the biggest challenge for you in terms of, taking control? I don't it's such a weird okay, when I was trying to set up and do all the blurbs, the social media blurbs, I was like, "Yeah, we're gonna talk about Zeldathon. We're gonna talk about what it's like to take the reins," because I was like, "Well, I guess ownership is moving, but I don't really know that for sure." Like, what did happen actually? So it was very hard for me to say like, "Oh, okay, Klinkit or Overproduced, owns Zeldathon now." The whole point of this, um, what was the biggest challenge for you taking the reins of Zeldathon?
I would say my biggest honestly, it was like there isn't really a guidebook on how to do this.
Mm,
So I went to MC's house and we transferred all the accounts, like the Twitch account, the Patreon, the uh, I can't remember what else there was. I had to create a new email address because we were leaving Kinstone, so I had to buy a domain. I really wanted overproduced.com, but it cost $4,000, so we went with overproduced.live. And
okay.
I took control of the Zeldathon website and domain, um, created AWS for it, and so that we had all the account transfers as one part. And then I decided we were gonna do a winter event, but I was not ready during that timeline to do a Zeldathon.
Mm,
So we decided to do a side quest because I wanted to have something kind of that we could work towards that could also because I started out with no funds, like, I don't there's no, like I had my own savings, right? Um, and I because I had decent savings and I had reenlisted. I chose to reenlist in the Marine Corps for a big bonus. Uh, Ask me how I feel about that.
I'll
Don't
put that one in my
actually
back
don't
pocket.
don't actually ask me how I feel about
How does Klinkit feel about reenlisting?
uh, but the money was like I was like, "This will help." Um, and I, um so that was
Also,
what I
yes, thank
had.
you for your service. I suppose in more ways than one.
Yeah, um, but then I didn't have, a long-standing bank account. I had a brand new bank account, so it's not like I am gonna have an easy time getting loans. Um, and I didn't have contracts for venues. I didn't have contracts for charities. I didn't have any events planned. So we did our little side quest event in the meantime with a small contract for Starlight, which was my first time doing a contract. But that was like a baby contract.
Okay.
I had to, I had to make a I had to start figuring out how do I pitch events? How do I and ultimate and I also was like, I need to make sure a big priority for me was making sure that Zeldathon was financially stable
Mhm.
and sustainable. So I wanted to find a venue that was gonna be more affordable, that would be a good experience for all and was not like super far away and had what we needed. And I had to start paying for storage. I had to transfer everything to a new storage unit. And and then I had to start talking to charities. And so I just had to kind of learn it all on the fly. And it was really scary for me to just like go into a call and start I had so many venues like ghost me because they didn't understand what I was asking for.
Okay.
They would like start to talk and I was like, "But what about this, this, and this?" And then they just would stop. They were like, and they would just stop responding.
Okay.
Um, and when the at Saturn, when I will tell you one of my biggest breakthrough moments was when the Saturn venue, emailed me back, the events sales rep? I can't remember what
Oh,
her actual title is, but she was
okay.
like, "I am a huge Zelda fan." Like, we sat down for our first video meeting. She's like, "First of all, I just wanna say that I'm a huge Zelda fan, and I've been looking at your website,
Mhm.
and we are so excited to potentially be the venue for you," which was like, I had never had a venue do I was like, "Oh, you did research. Like, you get what we are." Like, she had
Right.
actually done research ahead of time, and, like, their tech team one of their members of their tech team was, like, covered in Zelda tattoos and was, like, super down with it. And so, that was like, one of the I think I was, like, crying after that meeting because I had been ghosted by so many venues, and I was so scared that we weren't gonna have a place to hold the marathon.
Right.
And and getting a venue that not only was interested, but, like, got what we were gonna do and was excited about it was
Yeah.
really, really exciting. It was a huge, huge breakthrough for me.
I can
Uh,
imagine. I can only
yeah.
imagine, really.
Yeah, yeah, and also getting getting like, sending out so many sponsorship emails and getting, like, nothing back, and then when Lens Rentals was like, "Yeah, we could do it," and I was like, "You wanna jump on a call?" And, we jumped on a call and they were all about it. That was really, really exciting because most of your sponsorship requests are like, you don't get anything in return, right? You don't hear anything back or it's like a no
Right.
thank you. So, like, that was such a huge win for us. And, 'cause they I didn't have any I guess this is another thing, I didn't carry over very much of the tech gear from Zeldathon. MC kept most of it.
Yeah, I can
Um
kinda I so, behind the scenes, I could kinda see that. It seemed like a lot of the tech was new. Um, Going back to that, talking with sponsors or trying to talk with venues. So I understand that maybe the reason for talking with different venues is price, right?
Mhm.
But also when you're talking about talking with sponsors, did Zeldathon have sponsors before?
Not very many.
Mhm.
We've had a few sponsors in the past. One event we were sponsored by Elgato. I think XSplit used to sponsor back in the day. We had one event where we were sponsored by Sheets.
Oh, right, I
Um,
actually do remember that one.
yeah, and PC Name Tag was the one existing sponsor that I was able to like meet with really early on. So that one was stable.
Yeah.
But I've been trying to get sponsors for so long and not I mean, every now we had a couple games indie games that sponsored us too. But that Lens Rentals one was probably our in value, the biggest sponsor we've ever had with what they provided us.
Mhm.
Um, Because while the rental wasn't the if we were to have paid for the rental ourselves, it still would have been a lot of money.
Right.
Um, but the value of the gear that they sent us was probably worth more than anything else in the spaces combined. They sent us a lot of really good stuff.
I
I
yeah.
think I think each tripod was like $5,000 new.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. And we
These
ended
things
up
are
having to
like
get the
30
more
bucks behind me.
yeah, yeah, because like, there was a cheaper tripod that we had asked for that they approved of, but they didn't have them in stock. So they were like, "Alright, we'll just upgrade you to this next one," which was a huge price drop.
Wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess you got some whole new tech. Was that also through the sponsors and
And no, that was my wallet.
Oh,
So
sponsored by
we had
Klinkit.
we had some tech that, some of our team members we have a few team members that have, like, over the years, helped sponsor, uh, different tech purchases.
Mhm.
So the ones that didn't come from MC, but came from some of our team that wanted to help purchase certain things, that stuff came with Zeldathon.
Okay.
But the actual MC purchases did not. So we had no cameras, no TVs, um, no game consoles, no lights. Well, we had some special lights, but we didn't have, like, main lighting panels or anything like that.
Got it.
And we did have those at the event because I borrowed them all the TVs and the lights from MC.
They did look familiar.
I borrowed them all. But, yeah, we don't at some point, we'll need to purchase our own.
Right.
But the
Yeah,
whole
that
new
makes sense.
rack that we had a whole because I couldn't use the rack because MC, MC would have let us use the rack. MC had an event in Florida that he had to do just the weekend
Mm,
prior and that week of, which is why he did a remote segment. And so regardless, I had to purchase a new rack for us to run like main PC rack with our, and a new audio mixer and UPS and router and everything. We had to get all that put into a rack because we weren't gonna have another option.
right. Yeah, and I mean, even, BC Voyager in chat is mentioning the video quality of the stream was amazing. I, wholeheartedly agree. I think one of the biggest challenges that I actually, like I look at Zeldathon and maybe, like, 1 or 2 other streamers, nobody really does this, is the couch setup. And when I was trying to figure out a couch setup, I think really Zeldathon was the only stream I knew that was doing it, like, at
Yeah.
all. So, it was well, and then I was like, "So how are you guys doing this?" And it's like, "Yeah, we just, have very expensive equipment." Like, "Ah, yes, okay, I see, got it. Things I can't do."
Yeah,
Um, but you could tell, yeah, you could tell that the quality was there. So,
yeah, I I think our music segments were definitely the most overproduced, but they were really good.
they were.
They were
I could
really
see the
good.
transition. I saw Zen in the back, and it was just I
Yeah.
at one point, he was just like, what's going on?" I'm like, I'm just watching you work because like, I'm just so confounded by the whole thing."
Oh, yeah, no, well, he works magic, but,
Yeah,
I try to absorb it a little bit, but he's just very, very good at what he does.
yeah.
But in general, just a lot of why Zeldathon is so good is because we have either acquired people who are very good at what they do, very talented, or we have people who have found their talent and just gotten very good at it through Zeldathon, which I think is really cool. We have a number of people that started at Zeldathon, like, taking up a job as I mean, not a job, a volunteer role at Zeldathon that they were interested in, and it directly, it directly leading to them having a change in careers and having that on their resume and getting hired with a new career path in life, which I think is really, really cool.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
So, when talking with sponsors, I mean, was it just difficult getting your foot in the door? Just like people just didn't understand the concept?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things that are challenging for Zeldathon. One, um we don't get the viewership we used to get when Twitch would just let us be in the front page all week.
Mm.
Because front page is challenging now, especially if you don't have money, to
Oh,
pay for
yeah.
it.
Okay. Pay to win,
Um,
got it.
yeah, yeah, there's limits to how much you can get without doing that. Please don't come after me, Twitch.
Dan Clancy, did you hear?
Um, but one thing that actually paid off really well for me was I went to the St. Jude Summit in April, for Zeldathon, and it so happened that the Twitch marketing team was there. Actually, Dan Clancy was there too.
Yeah.
The Twitch marketing team was there, um, to talk about things, and I was like, "All right, I'm gonna shoot my shot." And actually, I'm really bad at opening, conversations with people I don't know. It's like my anxiety. I just need, like, something to start the conversation, and I'm good. So I brought Zachy with me to St. Jude, and every time I wanted to talk to someone, I'd be like, "Zachy, go start the co bring me along, go start the conversation." And that's what we did, and it worked so well. And so Zachy got me in with, like, Ray Apollo and Ethan, the director of marketing at Twitch, and, Kawaii guy, the community director of community at Twitch, and I talked with all of them. And what was really cool is they all had heard of Zeldathon before, and they all were excited to try and help support it. And so I've had meetings with them since, and we're still talking and engaging, and we were hoping for more front page, but what they were able to get us was 1 day of front page during the event, which we got up to, like, 9,000 viewers during that hour, which was great.
That is pretty good.
But they also worked with their social media team to get a post about the event out on, like, TikTok and Instagram in the middle of the event, which was really, really cool. We didn't expect
Yeah.
that was a surprise, and I was really excited about that. But that helped a lot with, with, getting the viewership, because it's it's one of the biggest challenges, especially with sponsors, is our metrics aren't bad. They're not bad for, like, a single partnered streamer, but for, like, a full event compared to also at least, and maybe they aren't bad, I don't know, but compared to my perspective, when Zeldathon would be consistently, like, a low back when I first was, coming into like, our low numbers were, like, 5,000 viewers.
Right.
That was when we were at a low point. And but Twitch has changed the way front page and everything works now, so it's a lot more challenging. So
Yeah, and
yeah,
I would
that
say not even front page, it's just, like, viewership is so different now.
mhm.
because either there's more competition, the algorithm doesn't work the way that, it used to. So it and actually, you know what? You were talking about the economy and how that impacts like these charity events. And I think all of these kind of the change in the algorithm and how viewership was perceived and the ability like the donation period was so drastically different starting in 2020. And I think it's just so much more difficult for anybody to not even front page, but just have the viewership that they used to have.
Mhm.
And do you would say that that has impacted Zeldathon in some way?
Oh, absolutely. Our I our community has also I think recent in the recent years, so I think it's a couple things. I think part of it is a lot of, our team has gotten older, and many of our team who used to stream, like myself, don't stream as much anymore, right? We have fewer members of the team that actively are streaming with their own audience to bring in, which is why we kinda try to pull from, other talent to bring in as well these days.
Mhm.
Um, and I think also with real life and things, people, getting older, our community got a lot less active, which I think also had a big impact. We've gotten a lot better over the last year or two. I've infiltrated I've guided GDQ people into the Zelda community. Um, and tried to collaborate with other events to try and, like, pull communities together. And I think Blood on the Clock Tower also helped revitalize our
Really?
community quite a bit, yeah.
I would
Um,
I would I would love to hear what that means.
we just started playing a lot, our team with community members, and everyone got so into Blood on the Clock Tower that, like, and then we had people joining us for Blood on the Clock Tower who hadn't heard of Zeldathon, and, that just kind of but, like, I think it made a lot of our community members feel a lot more close to the event, and then a lot of those Blood on the Clock Tower community members actually were volunteers at this event. So, like, we had already known them fairly well through Clock Tower, and so it was really cool to bring them out after playing with them for so long. But yeah, the challenge of, I think the economy has taken a hit in the algorithm, but I think also, social media took a big hit, right? So getting the word out about things is so much harder.
Ugh. No, it's so fine and workable and so good.
Yeah, it's so hard, and I think it's just hard for to get people to know about Zeldathon. And I'm curious to know how it's gonna be in the winter, because
Yeah.
Zeldathon in the winter is always around the same time, right? But Zeldathon in the summer ranges within 3 months or 2 months, I
Mm.
guess. Yeah, it could be in June, July, or August, right? Depending
Wasn't
on
it yeah, was it August last time?
it was August last time, and then it
Yeah.
was June this time. It used to often be in early to mid-June, that was when it was usually, but we've also had it in July. We had it over 4th of July, I think 2 summers ago,
Okay.
or maybe it was 3 summers ago, I can't remember. But, it changes, and, so I think it's harder in the summer too to get people aware of the event coming up, and I think I'm hoping winter will be a little bit easier because it's the same time as normal, but people still aren't
Yeah.
aware that we're doing winter because we announced we weren't gonna do it anymore, and then I brought it back.
Oops. Oh, you got him with the double oopsie. Yeah, there's a good point to that too, and I think Zen and Chad mentioned it too. There's the concept of, when Zeldathon I think first started, there were 2 events a year, and, really what else was going on in the charity space, even to the size of what Zeldathon was doing? I don't think there were a lot.
I can tell you, it was the Speed Gamers, which was the event that inspired both GDQ and Zeldathon the same year to start.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, yeah, that both inspired by the same marathon, started at the same time, and went on these 2 wildly drastically different branches,
Oh, yeah.
not interacting with each other hardly at all, and now it's kind of been like this weird, like,
Little heart
touch tou
shape.
touching tips.
Yeah. Oh.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Fine, I made the period joke earlier. Everybody's gotta have one. So on top of that, you know, GDQ and Zeldathon kind of Diasport, like they do their thing, right? They kind of separate. And you also start to see how easy it become. I think part of why it like the streaming space is so different is because it's so easy to stream. It is so much easier to stream now than it ever was before. You don't even need OBS. You can just do it straight off the Twitch
Mhm.
app on your phone if you want to. But I think just the amount of charity events or just, just smaller scope events, one streamer doing an event just because they feel like it. It really changes how each individual or all these larger events are able to make money. Do you think that Zeldathon and GDQ kind of had the same problems? Do you or do you think that do you think Zeldathon struggled more? Do you think GDQ struggled more to maintain what they had?
I think we both are struggling to maintain, but at different scales, right? Because
That's fair.
GDQ raises like 2 point what raised like what, 2.5 million.
Yeah.
Um, but they have also taken a hit from the viewership side,
Mhm.
and they have also, the front page is very getting front page access and like all that sort of they go through all the same struggles that we do. Um, it's just at a different scale. I think it can be felt all the way through the different sizes of events. And I really truly believe that the best method for growth now is through collaboration with other events and creators as opposed to just trying to make it on your own. Because back when I first started streaming, people would we wouldn't you'd be hesitant to like to raid or talk in someone you'd be hesitant to talk about streaming in someone else's chat because you don't wanna be like you're self-advertising or
Yeah,
like
yeah.
but now, and maybe it still goes on, but not in my circles. Now it's more of a, "Oh, cool, you're doing an event? When are you doing the event? Let me tell my community about it." And
Right.
then ideally, they also tell their community about it, and so you're bringing we've been trying to collaborate with different events, each time. So at 1986, we did our Fatales collaboration, where some of the Fatales came over to Zeldathon, and we did an interview, and then I went over with a couple other
Oh,
Zeldathon
yeah.
team members to the GDQ studio, and we did an interview with them. And then during, Side Quest Winter Masquerade, we had a Multithon takeover segment, and then during Multithon in March, we did a Zeldathon takeover segment, and then this last event, we did the Black and a Flash interview,
Mhm.
because Black and a or sorry, Back to Black, that's the name of the group. Black and a Flash was the event in January.
Yes.
They have their Juneteenth event this weekend, or I guess probably starts tomorrow.
It's probably well, yes, if you're watching this live, it is probably tomorrow. If you're listening to the podcast, it may have already happened.
Yeah.
But, June 19th.
Yeah, so they have the Juneteenth event, so since it was so close to our event this time, we did a collaboration with them, to, have, do an interview about, some of their Black Zelda creators, and also just to talk about the event
Right,
in general and
right.
share it so our community is aware and we can, come help support them and help, raise their platform. Because I think honestly, just good faith, collaboration is the best way to benefit everyone right now.
Yeah, I mean, just speaking from personal experience, not even from the charity space, my ability, YouTube is so different. I YouTube for me has almost been entirely collaborative because of the podcast. Like I've been doing podcasting for probably as long as you've been doing Zeldathon. I think I started in like 2015 or 2016 really. So, but a lot of that is building or establishing oneself is so difficult, nearly impossible to even do, let alone maintain in this space where anybody can stream, and especially on YouTube, where I'm probably competing with a 24-hour live Bluey marathon somewhere that somebody has stolen
It's
and
true though.
nobody's doing anything about it because you don't wanna ruin that for the parents.
Yeah.
So there's just so much more competition in terms of just trying to stop. Don't go to Bluey. Stay here, god damn it. Sit your ass back down right now.
Bluey will be there later.
How did you know my other open tab? Yeah, Bluey will literally be here when I'm done. Probably when I'm dead. Fine. Oh my god. You guys are the worst. You're anyway. So yeah, I just think that it becomes so imperative. I was only able to make a foothold in Twitch because I figured out how to talk to people at conventions, and it went from doing convention, like talking to somebody at a convention, and then just being like, "Hey, do you want to like play Mario Kart or something?" So and honestly, like Zeldathon, I think helped me in more ways than one that way too, because there's so many different creators that I've seen or talked to in different ways, but we were able to just meet a whole bunch of new people at Zeldathon, including I mean Andy and Kelpsy have been at Zeldathon maybe a couple times before. I think, Kung Fu or Fu has been there once or twice.
That was her first time, and
Oh,
that
it
was
was their
also
first time.
it was Kelsey's been there before, but that was the first time Andy and Kelsey were supposed to come to 1986, but they were sick, and couldn't come.
Right. I remember
Yeah,
that
but
now.
Kelsey had been previously though, and then, that was Foo and Bird's first time, so that was cool.
Can you yeah, I mean, we talk about the vibes, we talk about all these different changes, but uh what was it like to start bringing in new people? We talked about it a little bit maybe during the Q&A session, but not only did you bring in new people, but you start talking about, delegating more activities to other people on staff. What was that experience like for you?
Mhm.
And what did you learn from that?
So, when we moved to side quest, I'm gonna go back to the COVID times,
Yeah.
we ended up actually delaying side quest due to the George Floyd protests. Um, and when that happened, we kinda took a look at ourselves and we were like, "Wow, we're, like, super white." Um,
I've
and
had that thought more times than I can count when I do this podcast.
we're like,
So
"Wow,
so thank you for your service. Like, thank you so much.
I was like,
Thank you
"Wow,
so much.
we're so white." Maybe we should do something about that. So we started this was actually what broke down initially our restrictions on people having to have met someone in person to vouch for them to come to the event. Was we started being like, well, let's just start looking for new creators to bring in during side quest, these virtual events, and see how they fit. Do they fit our vibe? Like, how do we work together? And I that was the hard. I had to learn how to do cold calls, right? Like, not literally cold calls, but like DMs and emails and
I
stuff
know
with people.
exactly what that is because I do that.
Yeah,
I can
I had to start.
actually relate to this. This
I
is
had to start
great.
learning how to do that, and, but that's how we got people like Super Lewis 64. He was just a YouTuber who was making cool controllers, and I was like, "This guy's awesome." And then, like, Alex Norimaki, I had been following her for a while. I was like, "She is, incredible. I
Yes.
want to get her involved." Um and, so we had built this, and it's after you work with someone a few times virtually, and especially when you can see them, right? Because they have a camera and you can kinda see how they interact with you and stuff, I think it's sufficient
Yeah.
in in the vibes check on whether they're a good fit or not. So we started inviting people that way after, once we were pretty confident that they were a good fit, we could just we felt okay inviting people we hadn't met before, so to speak.
Right.
And so that was where I started. So when I came to so now I'm at the point where I'm okay. I'm okay with doing cold calls for Zeldathon. I'm comfortable. I've gotten through the scary part of never doing it before and getting
Mm.
lots of, ghosting or no's. Like, who is this person?
I mean, part of what makes that easier to do is getting rejected, I found,
Mhm.
or getting ghosted, where
Yeah.
you just have to continuously like huff the copium of, this is it's nothing personal, like, it's not my fault, it's, things happen,
Yeah.
and that winds up actually being true most of the time, but yeah, it's a very relatable experience. It gets easier over time, but that anxiety definitely doesn't always go away.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's and for me, it's like finding people that are really gonna bring something to the show,
Yeah,
that are really that I don't wanna just invite someone for the sake of inviting them, like, I want them to feel like too, like they are gonna contribute and they are gonna really add something to what we have, and so I started, just I fortunately have now that I've been at GDQ and some of the Coliseum events, I've made a lot more connections, um, but, I've also gotten to the point where I'm okay with just cold emailing. And so, yeah, I work with Fu, at Fatales. She's my boss, on the interstitials team, so I had asked her, I was like, "Hey, you love Zelda. You wanna come to Zeldathon?" She's like, "Yeah, I'll come for a couple days with Bird." And then Kelsey and Andy have been a couple times, and I was like, "Hey, you wanna go to Zeldathon?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure." And then what was really exciting, it was a little I had a lot of people I invited who it's wedding season, so they couldn't
yeah,
come. They were like, "I have a wedding," and I was like, "No." But they were like, "But please invite." But the cool thing was they all wanted to be invited in the future.
yeah.
It was like, "Please invite me again." And I was like, "Don't worry. I will continue at sending you invites until you say yes."
And then I'll stop.
And then I'll stop, and then
Yeah.
yeah, you'll get to go to one, and then we'll be good. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I did it! I mean, I'm very grateful that you sent me the invite because as a content creator, TM, my whole thing is that the invitation to an event like this is it's very much a reflection on what it is that we're able to do or how I feel about it is a almost direct reflection. Sometimes it's just convenience, but a reflection of what it is that I am doing, and it must be doing something right because people are like, "Can you please come over and play video games with us?" I mean, I can't. I feel like I don't really bring an audience or anything, but I was very, very happy to not only get an invite, but and also I don't know, like I came as a liaison from Zelda Universe the first time, so to be like, "Hey, do you wanna come back?" And I'm like, "I haven't been with Zelda Universe in 2 years. Is that fine?"
Like, yeah, I don't care.
Okay. Cool. So,
Yeah, I was excited that we were able to utilize you to for an interview as well. That was cool.
I was also very pleased because, I figured that thing out in, like, 2 s like, I knew that the interview was gonna happen for, like, what, 2 hours?
Yeah.
About as long as it took me to drive over. But then, the fact that I was able to come up with like I don't know, that was what, like 20 minutes?
Yeah,
So,
I think it was more like 30.
I
Maybe? I don't know. I actually have no idea.
yeah, it's fine. I felt very proud of that. I felt very proud of that. So,
Yeah, no, it was a
I was
great
glad that
interview.
you brought me in for that too.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
we
actually
wanted to
using my
utilize.
skills.
Yeah, like, and that's what we wanted to make sure we got to utilize your skills, during it, and, yeah, when you were mentioning, like, feeling validated by being invited to events, it's so funny to me because for me, I'm like, I get concerned about when I send invites to people to come out to the event that they're just, like, they're doing me a favor because that's how I feel because it's like, "Oh,
Mm,
I would
yeah.
love it if you came out to the event." Um, but I don't think about whether they would be excited about the opportunity, right? For me, it's like more like, "Oh, will they do me a favor and come out to the event?"
I You never have to worry about that for me because 'cause I'm literally just like I bring nothing but me. That's it. Because pretty much everyone that's in my community already is watching Zeldathon. They already know about Zeldathon. So, um, yeah, I feel like I'm not doing anybody you're doing me a favor by letting me come over and be silly and stupid for a couple hours.
I don't think that's really true because it's like I try to we want lots of different personalities and interactions, and I want to build for me, especially for this event, I was trying to build familiarity and rapport with the viewers and the cast we had, right? Because
Mhm.
we did we did have a we had a number of our normal cast members who either didn't do this event or did it remote,
Mhm.
and not having them in person was definitely a very different group of people on camera. Um,
Yes.
there were a lot of people who have been there, for a long time, but I think at pretty much at all times, except for maybe during Michael, Michael, and Michael, which even Andrew, was new, but was, not on the couch. But other than maybe that segment, I think it was, like, all there was always at least one new person out there or probably close to it. There might have been a couple other segments that didn't have a new person, but I there was a lot of new people.
Yeah. And we've talked about that experience. Speaking of, does Homik count as new? Gannon is asking. I mean,
I think Homik came into his own at this event. I He was at 1986,
you
but
know, yeah.
I think he really started connecting with the event at this event. I think this was the event where he really, like, established his his role in the group.
I mean, what was it? I think it was Echoes where I remember him being at the start of it and then or maybe it was
Just
1986. It
1986,
was
like,
1986.
just
So like by the time I showed up, he was like, I gotta go on a plane. So I was very grateful to actually get to hang out and talk with him a lot more because he's just such a good personality and he does
Mhm.
he does bring a lot. When I see behind the scenes pictures, posted to social media and stuff, he's in like almost all of them. You
Yeah.
know, he was there, you know,
Yeah.
eh, way more than, I feel like I was, but it's just he was ready, to
Yeah.
be there, and he really put his whole body or his whole heart into that.
Yeah,
Um
he did a lot of work, and, camera loves him. The
It
camera
does,
sure loves him.
it does. So, speaking of all these changes that have been happening, we have a Zeldathon coming up in the winter, whether it takes place in a prison facility or a college at this point, same difference. What does the future of Zeldathon look like to you now that we've
Ah.
gotten this far?
Oh my gosh, I actually had a call. I did announce at Zeldathon that our next event was with Make-A-Wish, and I had a call with them earlier today, which I only nothing I can share, but only great vibes that I
Yeah,
can send out about that call. It was a very
yeah.
good call. And I think the future of Zeldathon for me is to continue, well, one of the first priorities, and you'll see it probably posted soon, is we need an event operations lead.
Oh,
We're gonna be
what the
looking
hell
for
is
an event
that?
we're gonna be looking for someone to handle registration and volunteer coordination and all those things so that I don't have to, and that so it's more organized and structured, and, it's gonna take a lot of weight off of myself, Mags, Zaki, and Triss.
Mhm.
That is a role that I am dying like, people I there's some things I don't like to let go of. Event ops, that side, I am dying to let someone take that from me. I was like, "Please get it away. I don't wanna do this anymore. I don't wanna do it. I don't wanna do it." Um, so I'm very much looking forward to delegating that role to someone else. So, and that's gonna make things a lot I think, run a lot smoother on
Yeah.
our end. Um, and, all the leadership I have is all fairly new. We're gonna be looking to round out, some of our other areas with more help and people who can take over more formal roles. And so administratively, hopefully things are gonna get better. I don't want to divulge get too deep into the business weeds, but I'm still very much looking for stability with Zeldathon. So when it comes to ensuring our events are well established and financially secure, that is a big priority for me. Exactly what that's gonna look like for our winter marathon, what form it's gonna take is still under discussion, especially after today.
Yeah.
Lots of potential options, but, nothing for sure. I still don't know what day we're gonna start on. I don't have dates. Make-A-Wish asked me today, they're like, "Do you have a name for the marathon yet?" And I was like, "Nope."
We've been thinking of jail.
How does
How
Zeldathon
does
jail sound to you?
the Make-A-Wish Foundation. You want us to know how jail feels like. Got it. Mhm. Yes. We'll get back to you on that one.
Um,
So,
I did find out what kind of sponsors I can't have, for Make-A-Wish,
really?
and it's basically everything you would imagine, like, that a child-centric organization wouldn't allow. You can't do drugs. Oh, you can't do adult
You
content.
mean
Oh.
Corona's off the table? Damn it. But it's supposed to be beach season in the winter. Ugh.
Uh, yeah, I, the future of Zeldathon, I am really excited to continue to I really want to build a Zeldathon where we are so put together behind the scenes that but still continue to have our chaotic energy, you know, on camera that people don't think we're put together behind the scenes. But we are, because everything's perfect.
Yeah, and
That's
content
my end
creation
game.
is fake.
I want our, our unhinged nature and everything that we are, everything that makes us special to be there and alive and well, but I want the behind the scenes to not be I don't want us to be unhinged in the way we, run our operation.
I feel like that's always gonna be something that you're gonna have to deal with to some degree, right? Like, you can't always count for everything, but from somebody who was just kind of, walking around the halls, other than, bits and pieces here and there, it seemed like everything was running okay.
Yeah, it did. I like I said, when people told me the vibes were great, I was like, "Really?" Not that I didn't believe them, but I hadn't really taken a moment to, like, consider it.
Yeah,
Um, and, when I look back on it, I was constantly having to get things, which is this is part of the reason why I wanna dump event operations onto someone else,
fair.
is, like, I was constantly, "Oh, I need you to do this for me. I need you to order this. Can you forward me this information for that?" And I felt like I was being pulled a lot of different directions all the time. So I felt like for me, it was always go, go, go until until the last day of an event where I was like, I made a mistake in that I did not leave space for myself to produce near the end of the event, really. Because I thought I should take a step away from that and and um and give that up so that I could be around to help things. Well, turns out that the producers don't need help. And so
I do.
turns out they're fine. They don't really need me. And I was just kind of like, oh, there's nothing for me to produce right now. Poor Zenadier, like, knows. I was like, please let me direct. Let me do something. I'm so bored.
That's technically good.
I was like, please,
I'm gonna go
please.
unplug something just so that there's something for me to do later.
Um, and I learned, I was like, I gotta make sure I leave myself some space to be creative and produce and be hands on with the event. And also to support that I need an event operations lead so I can do that.
I feel like you're trying to do the call out like right now on this podcast. Do I need to post a link for
I
volunteers?
don't have a link yet, but it will be posted
That was
on
the operations
zeldathon.com.
manager's job, and we don't have one.
Yeah, no, I have the posting. It's not active because I have to make some edits to it.
That's fine.
Because it turns out, the job has shifted slightly, um, as over time, so we have to make some adjustments to the role,
It's understandable.
um, based on where we're at right now, but
And you know what? I think we're at a good point to do the video game obligatory portion of this podcast.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, we gotta talk about video games here sometimes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
true.
I'm sorry, chat. Everyone's leaving now. But, hey, what's going on with this Donkey Kong timeline?
Yo, I love Donkey Kong. Um, I don't know if people know this, but one of my favorite games is Donkey Kong 64, and I also played Donkey Kong Country, just the first one a lot as a kid. But, I don't know why, at some point I did go deep into Donkey Kong lore, um, in my life,
Was it just one of
mostly
those, like, Wikipedia holes that you just fall into?
I think so, cause like, I was really so my favorite character in the Donkey Kong cinematic universe, um, is Tiny Kong, and
Yes,
who is
yeah.
Dixie's sister, and the reason I love Tiny Kong was, as a little girl playing Donkey Kong 64, I loved that I could play a girl character. That's kinda how it went with all the video games. If I could play a girl, I wanted to play a girl. Um 'Cause I like to be good at a game as a girl, like, that was how I was a kid, I was very, I guess, feminist in a way, I was like, "I'm the girl character, and I'm winning."
I like the idea that you say that, and yet you skipped, like, the 2 games in that 4-game, like, streak that
Oh, yeah, I
featured
never
the girl character.
Yeah, I never had I never had Donkey Kong Country 2 or 3.
Can I please, as the straight white male, I must revoke your feminist card, please. Have it
But,
back
like,
to me by the end of the day.
I loved Tiny Kong, and I would play her anytime I could during when I was playing Donkey Kong 64. 'Cause she was my preferred character, and so, like, I was just so sad when she, like, I guess she does come back at some point and as, like, an older character later on. I
It's
don't know,
so weird because, like,
like, teenager
yeah,
Tiny Kong,
they
it's weird.
apparently Nintendo just took one look at Tiny Kong's original thing, and they were like, "Nah."
Yeah.
But they
Yeah,
looked at Dixie, and they're like, "That's fine.
yeah.
No changes, please."
No changes. And she's not so tiny in the
No.
in the
She's
next
taller
version.
than Dixie.
Yeah. So, like, I had been looking so I was aware of the lore that or the supposed lore that Cranky Kong is actually the original Donkey Kong, I believe, is what
Yeah, and
they
they keep
theorize.
that up in, Donkey Kong Bonanza, I noticed, because there's, like, a
Yeah.
line he says where it's, rivals used to be. I like how he ages to be an old man and Mario's still, like, 37 or something like that. Like, uh,
Is it the same Mario?
I don't know. To be fair, he's died a lot, hasn't he?
True,
And he's still the
true.
same person. No, yeah, you're right.
Maybe he's a vampire. Maybe Mario's a vampire.
Mm, we have to go. Pauline is one. Well, actually, no, it could be the same thing. Who knows? We don't know why Pauline's a child now.
Well, supposedly, that just theoretically means it takes place earlier, but, like, Pauline seems like she's, like, I don't know, like, maybe in her 30s, like,
Yeah, I mean,
normally.
she's able to run
I
for office.
I feel like she's probably, like, in her 30s or
Yeah,
something, maybe or I don't know, she could be a young-looking 40s, but, so if we take that in mind, then it doesn't make sense well, also, I guess I'm not super familiar uh with how gorillas age, um, or apes, whatever
apparently
Donkey Kong is.
differently. Oh yeah,
Um,
what was that? Nintendo apparently said something where it's just like you're not allowed to call either of them apes or gorillas. That's like a new thing. Like they're like Donkey Kong is not an ape, and I'm like, you've been calling him that for 40 years. What do you
what is he?
mean he's not that? I mean, Diddy Kong, sure, he has a tail. He's not,
He's a monkey.
if anything, he's a chimpanzee.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the abs of a chimpanzee, but he's still something. They're Kongs, yeah, of course. But I think the other question was like, well, what do we call them? And they didn't really have an answer. So it's like, what do you mean?
They're Kongs. Yeah, I guess they're
Ugh.
Kongs, but, like so it's like but if you consider that Donkey Kong or the Kongs age similarly to humans, that would mean that the Donkey Kong in this game is not probably not Cranky, but is either Cranky's son or
I think he's
wait,
if
but
we're
Donkey
going
Kong's supposed to be Cranky's nephew, right?
yes. From what I remember in the rare version of the lore, the rareware version of the lore, he is Cranky's nephew. Because again, Cranky is created by Rare, so is Dixie,
Yeah.
Tiny, Chunky, all of those characters were created by Rare, and then Nintendo basically were like, "Well, they're technically ours."
Yeah.
And that's why I was, like, kind of surprised that they maintained some of this, like, status quo. The only reason why I wanna talk about this is because it is so fucking ridiculous that people are, like, so upset where it's like, "Oh, this breaks the lore, this breaks the timeline." I'm like, "What do you mean timeline?
The Donkey Kong
Where's
Cinematic
Donkey
Universe
Kong
timeline.
Jr.? Because he's not the same."
Isn't Donkey Kong Jr.
No.
supposed to be Donkey Kong?
They keep waffling on that. Donkey Kong
Okay.
Jr. is not supposed to be the DK that you see in Country on up. But then again, I don't know if he's not supposed to be. So
But
I don't Unraveled comes
here's
back with a
my
DK
theory.
timeline. God damn it.
Here's my theory,
Yeah.
and I just made this up on the spot, so take it for what you will. Donkey Kong from our current, modern day Donkey Kong is not the nephew of Cranky Kong, but is
Hmm.
the great nephew of Cranky Kong. And there's another generation in there that is Donkey Kong Jr. That is the maybe the son of Cranky Kong.
Yeah.
And that is who is starring in this game as well. This is Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong Jr. is the star of this game.
I'm looking forward. I mean, I don't know if there was any additional information about like Pauline other than it's like this is what she does, this is who she is, and this is what she does. I I'm I can't wait to find out that, she's actually supposed to still be like 30 something.
She got turned into
And she yeah, I'm looking forward to this being something kinda stupid where she's like, "Well, I was trying to figure out how to be young again, and I went way too far, and it's actually just monkey magic." So,
probably.
maybe at the end of the game, she just returns to normal,
But
and, everyone who's upset today will kinda sit there being like, "Well, don't I have pie in my face?"
but the thing is, the thing that gives me pause is I feel like the
A
the
wizard did it, yes.
suspenders I feel like the suspenders look now, don't this doesn't transfer over to Pauline at all, but I
Yeah.
feel like the suspenders look is, like, old, like, not from this time.
It's interesting because, like, the suspenders look almost gives off this, like, vibe of what Miyamoto wanted Donkey Kong to possibly be back when he was still, in the arcades.
Yeah.
And he does kinda the clothes give off a vibe of we're trying to Miyamoto's, like, trying to take back his character from 30 years of Rare
Rare.
changing him and making him more extreme for the '90s kids.
Yeah.
That's my take.
Yeah, no, I believe it. I don't know, did you ever watch the Donkey Kong TV show?
I did. See, when people post that meme of his butt, I saw that butt live on television as a
Me
child.
too, me
Yep.
too. I remember the songs, that it was that show looks did not age well, though.
It didn't but
Well, and actually, it was bad when it came out too, but it didn't age well.
it's did you know that a lot of it is apparently, like, hand puppetry?
Really?
So, they once. So, there was I think it was at CES, like, back in the early '90s. Obviously 94, I guess, when DKC came out. So, there was this company that was based in Canada that was working on trying to do very cheap 3D animation because Toy Story was coming out and everyone was, like, losing their shit over it. And, and you can watch them actually do the stuff, and it's a mix. It's just very interesting motion cap where I think a lot of the motions, like the body movements, I think are mocap, but then the facial expressions and the mouths is like hand puppetry. So like depending on what
Oh,
somebody does with
that's why it's
their
so weird.
hands, yeah, that's why it just looks. I mean, it's mocap. I've never they still do it in some video games today, and I hate it. But when they do, like, the motion capture and you can see the very, like, tiny, minute motions of the characters, and it's, like, so mo-capped that they didn't bother kind of changing it to look a little bit
Right.
more realistic. I It bothers me so much. It really does. Um, Very uncanny valley, I agree. So, yeah, so you don't have a Switch 2 yet.
I don't.
Are you are you excited to pick one up with DK Bonanza?
Ah, I am tempted to. I am definitely tempted to. If people are still playing Mario Kart, then I think I'd be more likely to.
I I think that now that we know how long Nintendo can last without making a new one, yeah, they'll probably still be playing it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not dying to get a Switch 2, and I'm not while Donkey Kong Bonanza, while it looks like a fun game, right? I don't know that it's enough to make me buy a Switch 2.
Got it.
Yeah.
But what about Cyberpunk? What about Cyberpunk with the new features like frame rate
'Cause I would play it on my Switch and nothing else.
and nothing else?
That's what my PS5's for.
To be fair,
No,
it didn't
I
run
don't
very
play
well on that
Cyberpunk.
day one either.
No, I don't play Cyberpunk. I haven't played it, no, but I use my PS5 for my desktop's actually quite old. I built it in 2017, I think?
Ooh, ancient.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
still using it. It still runs decent. It does what I need it to do.
yeah.
And I've done a couple upgrades, but so I play my good games on my PS5. So
That is yeah.
Expedition 33, and, some of my other games are all on PS5.
I mean, I kinda have to reevaluate some of the games that I was gonna get on PS5 because the Switch 2 can run, like, Switch games well now. So I'm just kinda like, well, I only bought the PS5 version because I knew the Switch version was gonna run poorly. But,
Yeah.
maybe I might reconsider. So, we'll
Yeah.
see what happens. I'm looking forward to seeing more than 2 games on the Nintendo Switch 2 that are original.
Yeah, I will have to see. There's not enough yet for me to necessarily, except for the fact that everyone's playing Mario Kart without me. That's the biggest thing that makes me want to get a Switch too.
They were smart. They knew FOMO was gonna be a big deal. It's a
Yeah,
good
that's like
selling
the big
point.
I honestly think that is the FOMO of Mario Kart is more convincing for me to buy a Switch 2 than Donkey Kong, because Donkey Kong will still be there, and I wasn't dying for it, and Tiny Kong's not in it that I know of yet, so,
Maybe in DLC.
yeah.
Yeah, Mario Kart yeah, FOMO is toxic, but it works. Alright,
Mhm.
well, thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight and just talking about, your experiences. I think, uh, you know, I've learned a lot just talking with people off the cuff and just learning about what really goes into these events, what goes into maintaining them at this scale of Zeldathon or even like GDQ or anything like that. And I think that this is a perfect opportunity for us to just kind of help enlighten other people in terms of what really goes into and the work that goes into putting a show like this together and making sure that not only do you raise money, but raising over $110,000 like y'all just did last week.
I think we're gonna hit 120. I think we're gonna hit
Oh,
actually,
with
I'm
the
pretty confident.
merch and everything?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident we're gonna be over
Well,
120.
there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was awesome. I was really glad to be a part of it as little as I could. Um, I would love to come to another Zeldathon in the future. So
Well, I don't have a date yet for winter, but winter.
I'm looking forward to going to prison again. So look, that brings us to a close for this month's episode. I just want to say thank you again to Klinkit for hanging out with us tonight. Can you let me know, other than Zeldathon, what you're up to? Where can we find you? And what are you up? What are you doing?
Wow, I'm mostly Zeldathon. That's where you can find me.
Yeah.
Um, I am on Twitch as Klinkit, and, maybe I'll stream someday. My company overproduced, we right now we only have 1 gig that's not Zelda, or
Oh.
Zeldathon umbrella, I should say. We had our I started a speedrunning event at MomoCon that we debuted this last MomoCon, which was fun.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. What was it called again? I do
Momentum.
Momentum. I do remember this. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I'm proud of that branding. But, so, I mean, hopefully we'll have more events, more people will be interested in, uh, using and utilizing overproduced in creating events. Not just for charity. If you're listening to this and you're interested, hit me up. You can
Please
go to
help
my
me
website.
fix my audio.
Oh, but soon if I can do that for you.
Yeah.
Um, but, I'm at overproduced.live or zeldathon.com for either of those, and then, yeah, you can find me on social media, join our Discord, discord.gg/zeldathon. We'd love to have anyone in our community, and, yeah.
Awesome. Perfect. And as for me, if you want to figure out what, look, remember, you can help support this channel. If you liked the content, you can like this video. You can subscribe. Those are totally free things that you can do right now. And that allows you to check out the podcast live with a Q&A session that starts at 8 or, starts of the podcast. So, look, I have a script here and I'm not even reading it. But you can see the podcast live with video, including an exclusive Q&A segment that we do if you tune in, that you can catch if you tune in early. You don't get that on Spotify. But if you want to help financially support us, then, remember, you can just become a member starting at only $2.99 a month. It's
Yo.
yeah, it's a real cheap way. It gets you some cool emotes. It gets you the a Discord role in our Discord that opens
Mhm.
up the whole thing to you, so you can help shape the future of this channel. And tell me what to do because I need motivation.
I just, subscribed with the Zeldathon account and liked it with the Zeldathon account. So I was like, this is the only one I'm logged into on this browser right now. I guess Zeldathon's gonna like and subscribe.
Hell yeah! Look, if Zeldathon can do it, you can too. So, look, also be sure to leave us a comment down below. You can either let us know what you thought of the podcast, or you can maybe give us an opinion on the DK timeline. Where does this fall? What if DK died and this is a new DK? This is the fallen hero timeline.
Suspenders of the future?
My belief is this is suspended. I'll tell you that one for sure. And again, if you want to listen to this without all the video, you can find us on Apple Podcasts or over on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, really. And if you can leave us a rating or give us a 5-star review, that would be really great. Helps us with the algorithm. Anyway, with all of that being said, this has been an excellent, I think, episode 4 of Good Luck Have Fun. The audio version of this podcast was very likely edited by Motion Dan. I never asked him yet for this episode. Popsky did the intro. Klinkit has been this month's co-host and guest, and I have been your host, Laughingboy, saying good night, and don't let the bedbugs bite. Please let this end button work, for God's sake.